On January the 1st, 1963, 4 teenage boys came in and performed for the record executives, 3 record executives from Decca Records in England. And they were summarily rejected after 15 songs. Anybody know who it was? It was the Beatles, yeah. You just think about how those executives would have felt like, we should have. We should have. Well, we were short-sighted. We should have. Then we could have. And the issue is that some of us, and maybe many of us, have lived at that spot in our life. We think, I should have, then I could have. I should have, then I could have. You know, that's a sad place to live, isn't it? I should have, then I could have. Elisha was angry with King Jehoash. In this text we've been bouncing off of for the last 3 or 4 weeks in 2 Kings chapter 13. He was angry at King Jehoash because when he gave him a chance to show in himself what God would do for the people, he gave him a bow and he gave him arrows. And he told him to open the east window. And what's the first thing he told him to do? Shoot the arrow. Somebody's listening. Shoot the arrow out the east window. When he shot the arrow, he said, it's already won. Shoot the arrow of victory. It's already won. And the second thing he told him to do was what? After he shot the arrow? Shoot the ground. And he was angry at him because when he told him to deal with his own space, to deal with his own issues, to strike the ground where he was in front of the people who knew him the best, he fell short. He told him you should have done it 5 or 6 times, but since you half-heartedly struck the ground with just a few arrows, your victory will be half a victory. It's one thing to fall short. You know, it's a whole other thing in life to stop short. And sometimes, we get to that place where we look back and we think, I should have kept going. Then I could have conquered. Conquerors are completers, ladies and gentlemen. Conquerors are completers. Do I have any people today say, I want to be a completer? I want to be a conqueror. I want to be a completer for Jesus. Today's message is called, It's in You. Just look to the person next to you and say, it's in you. There's something in him, right? You say, I always wonder if something's in that person. It's in you. It's in you. It's in you. It's all about today, the power of potential. The power of potential. What's in you? There was a stand-up comedian that once said it like this. He came out on a stage, and this was his way. He started up his act, and I don't know if he thought it was funnier this way, or he would just tell the people about being a stand-up comic, and he's like talking like this, and he's all funny, and he's talking, and he say, guys, and he says, I didn't prepare that much for what I'm going to say to you guys today. No, I'm serious. I never prepare. That's my strategy. He said, because if I prepare and I bomb during the act, the only conclusion I can take is that I stink. If I really prepare and I bomb, the only conclusion I can take is that I stink. But if I don't prepare and I bomb, then I can tell myself if I would have tried harder, I could have done better. And everybody laughed. He said, but then if I don't prepare and I don't bomb, like I do pretty good, if I don't prepare and I don't bomb, then I can tell myself, it was another miracle. And then I just count on the miracles. You ever been there? Like if I put everything into it, and if it doesn't turn out that good, then I get a lot of pain, and I just feel like I've wasted it. But if I hold back and I don't prepare, I don't really strengthen myself, I don't give myself the best chance, I don't really pray about it, I don't really dig into myself, I don't really work on it, I don't really call it a victory beforehand. If I hold back, then I can say, if it turns out good, then, it's all God. And that's like that God card. And I say like, oh, God must be for me. God's for me. God's for me. And we don't really prepare by getting everything involved. We've been talking about bows and shooting the ground and shooting the arrow of victory. So I went and borrowed my friend's $1,500 compound bow. I said, hey man, I called him at 8 o'clock this morning. I said, what you doing? It's a close friend, but you can say that to him. He said, I'll meet you at the sing store. Bring my bow. And I said, man, I didn't know you were going to give me your Maserati of all bows. He said, all right. Man, this thing's got fiber optics right here. It's got all kind of little things that hold the arrow up. And man, it's exciting to me today. But sometimes in life, we're like this bow. Like, you're the bow. And, he didn't give me any arrows. I drove away and I thought, I wonder why he didn't give me any arrows. If you give the preacher the bow at the Circle K at 8 o'clock in the morning before church, you probably ought not to give him arrows. But and so he said, check it out. And so some of us, we're like this bow, and we don't really prepare. And we don't really think about how we're going to give everything to something. We're half-hearted. If I kind of half-heartedly pull on this bow, it's 70 pounds of draw weight. If I kind of half-heartedly pull on it, I think, man, because it's kind of hard to pull. The only way for me to pull this bow, if I pull it. Now, this compound bow is made that once you get it all the way back, it releases 30% and you can hold it. How many times in your life have you been stretched? How many times in life have you been stressed? How many times in life you think, God, you're pulling me. Oh, this situation is pulling me, God. And you think, I'm just going to tug at it a little bit. I'm just going to tug at it a little bit and see if it's easier. And you get up the next day, you talk to that person again, you deal with that situation again, and you think, I'm just going to tug on it a little bit. I know what God wants me to do, but I'm just going to tug on it some. You can't shoot an arrow of victory out of the east window of your life, and you can't strike the ground if you're just kind of tugging on it. Like that comedian that said, man, I don't prepare because I might bomb. You and me today, if we'll say in our life, God, pull me. God, stretch me. God, deal with me. God, I'm not going towards what's comfortable. I'm going towards what's hard. God, I'm not going towards what I know how to do. God, I'm going towards what I don't know how to do. God, I'm going into the area of my uncomfortability. I'm going into the area of my potential, because the area of your life that you receive the most stress and the most pressure when you're stretched and when God uses you in that area, that's the area of your most untapped potential. Sometimes we get that draw weight on us. We say, God, why are you pulling me? God, why are you stretching me? God, why are you stressing me? Why? Because he's trying to shoot the aerial victory out of the east window. He's trying to send you something up into the clouds. He's trying to give you something great. He's trying to teach you how to release your potential energy. That's what this is called. There would be no such thing as a bow if there wasn't the fact of potential energy. When I draw back this 70 pounds, I've got stored up energy. This bow will shoot at 320 feet per second. That's a pistol, you guys. God, shoot me, but don't stretch me. God, give me that victory, God, but don't stretch me. The only way you're going to have your potential get out of you, remember, it's in you. It's in you. And when I draw back this bow, what's in this bow? That energy is in that bow. That 70 pounds of draw weight is in there. That 320 feet per second is in there. And in your life, you've got it too. It's in you. It's in you. And sometimes we're like the person who says this, I don't want to fall short, so I'll stop short. Because I can't handle it if I don't win. The key point of 2 Kings 13 is this. The pain of falling short is nothing compared to the pain of stopping short. Because after just 3 half-hearted attempts, and he stops, and Elisha says, you should have, then you could have. It's not only in the king's life, but it's in us. In all of our areas of life, there's many of us, we say, God, I know there's more in me. I know there's more in me. And what happens to many of us after years of life, and I want to speak to you if you're here today and you're over 50, you're over 60 years old, we need you because you have the experience. And when you put together full potential release with experience, then you get somebody who can shoot on target. But many of us, every year of your life, you get buried under more stuff. And whatever's in you, that hope that's in you and that power that's in you gets buried under more stuff, more stuff. It gets buried under more things in your life. So that makes me ask this question. If so much gets buried, here's my question. What's your deepest hope? What's your deepest hope? Because whatever your deepest hope is, if it's down in there deep and God placed his spirit within you when you were saved, he placed his heart inside your heart, in the deepest place in your heart, your deepest hope, God placed it there. God placed that deepest hope there. But if you avoid it all of your life, you'll die with your potential inside you. It's in you. Say it again. It's in me. It's in me. It's in me. Your deepest, your greatest potential in life lies in your greatest hope. Your greatest potential in life lies in your greatest hope. Now, but how do I live it out? Like, because otherwise, I've just got a pie in the sky, by and by. You go for it. God loves you. You have some hope. Go be sweet. Go love Jesus and go for it and shoot your arrow. But today, I want to roll the sleeves up a little bit more. I want to get down to the nitty-gritty, and I want to tell you there's 3 things you can do to release your hidden potential. One of them is dig it out. Second, work it out. And third, call it out. Can we just say that together? Dig it out, work it out, and call it out. One more time. Dig it out, work it out, and call it out. Let's talk about dig it out first. Hey, Rivertown, can you dig it? Can you dig it? Say it with me. Say, I can dig it. Yeah. 1 Kings 19:19, Elijah departed from there and came down to Elisha, the son of Shaphat. Now, I like his daddy's name, Shaphat. Like, man, your daddy's so fat, he's Shaphat. He's a fat daddy. I don't mean fat daddy. I mean like he's fat. He's good. He's got it going on. He's P-H-A-T, fat. He's Shaphat. I don't think he pronounced it that way. But he was plowing, and I did a little more research, and I was thinking early on, it's like that Elisha is like at the end of like a 12 oxen Clydesdale horses kind of line, but it wasn't really that at all. What it was is that he was the 12th, so he could watch the first 11, and all the oxen were just a pair of oxen. And if he was the son of the landowner, he had a lot coming to him. He was being set up for his earthly father's view of success. He was being set up for this world's version of success. He had already become the one that plowed at the end and watched the other plowmen plow the fields. He was the man in charge. And he was the son of the landowner. And all of that was going to be his one day. And so when Elijah came to him and threw that Superman, super prophet mantle on him and said, like, you're next. I can train you because you can dig it. You've been digging it for years. You've been digging in your father's pasture for years. You've been digging out what God gave you. God's about to promote you to something more. You've been plowing in the field. You've been doing your responsibility. You've been digging it for years. I'm about to give you something more. Most of your potential is still buried, even though you know how to unbury this field. Most of your potential is still buried. You can plow these fields for the rest of your life, or you can let God plow your heart and dig out all the potential that's inside of your life. And praise God, Elisha said, let's go. He said, all right, I'm gone then. Let's go. He sacrificed the oxen and burned the plow in order to give it fire. And he did in his life what we have to do in our life. We have to take what we're doing and see it sometimes burned up in flames in order to sacrifice so that we can be at the level God wants us to be at. He's not trying to take your oxen. He's trying to make you into a prophet of God who can see the future and can give victory to other people and to walk in your potential. He's not trying to take away your plow. He's trying to let your plow become fuel for your future. Can I get a witness? Can I get some excitement about that? Now you guys, second service, we got a few little empty chairs today. You guys got to shout it today. You guys got to shout it. You got to give it to me today. Can you dig it? Most of our potential is buried. Where is it buried? It's buried under layers of painful experiences we don't want to relive. Can you dig it? It's buried under layers of painful experiences you don't want to relive. Those painful experiences are kind of like a stump in the field. And anytime you get to that stump, any plowmen here today? If you don't dig up the stump, what do you do when you get there with the plow? You got to plow around it. And then you come back with the next row, what do you do then? Every row is from then on crooked. Anybody here that does embroidering or stitching or something like that? It's like a dropped stitch. And you get to that painful experience. Again, you get something that reminds you of it. You get back into a relationship. You get back where your potential starts to get activated. But you remember that other time where you got stopped. And then you some people even God carded at that time. Oh, God wants me to be happy. God wants me to have comfort and blessing and ease. And I just don't have a peace about that thing. Well, of course you don't have a peace about that stump. You're going to have to stop your plow and dig it out the rest of the day. Of course you don't have a peace about it. Nobody has a peace about digging. But you'll never get through. You'll never be the person that when Elijah comes, he says, look at this field. Let me call that boy. You'll never be the person when God says, look, you got all your stumps out. You got all your rocks out. You got straight rows. You're growing some awesome corn. Come on up to the big house. We got a job for you. You'll never be that person unless you violently attack the things that cause you pain until they are rooted out. And you're open about it. Hey, everybody, I got a stump right here. You don't want to be the person who stops. Like, why are you stopped? Oh, it's fine. I'm not stopping. I'm good. I'm just going around this stump. But if you stop and start digging, everybody's going to know you have a stump. I got a little secret to tell you. They already know. They've seen your crooked lines for years. They've seen my crooked lines for years. They already know. Can you dig it? And now here's 3 things we do when we're reminded of a painful experience and our potential gets stopped and we don't draw the bow. We just tug at it and see if it's easy. There's 3 things we do when we get there. The first one is we move towards it. When we sense that fear, that pain, that shame, we get to that spot and we move towards it in fantasy or in idealism or in denial, where you ignore things just so you can be close. Uh-oh. Or maybe you have this dream of something to do in your life. And you get your New Year's resolution, or it gets to your birthday, and you say, I'm a year older, I'm going to rock it this next year, this next 12 months. And you get it, and you come up with this list of 27 things to do to achieve your dreams. But you won't do the very next thing. You start talking about, I'm going to do this. Oh, man, it's going to be great. We're going to do that. And you build up a fantasy and move towards it. But it's not really moving towards it. Because you trip on the stump while you're dreaming up the future. And you trip on it every time. And you'll trip on it every single time. Because when you get towards that painful experience and you try to please it. Any people pleasers here in the house today? Any people here today that go overboard? Trying to do too much? Any perfect people here today? They want to be perfect. You want to do more. You want to achieve more. And another way to do it is to just be so perfect. Never let them see you sweat. I'm so good. And some of you are so smart. You're so capable. You're so skilled. You're so able that all of your pain is covered up in your achievement. And when you get that to that stump, you just plow around it. And you say, look how fast I am. I can plow this field so fast. All the lines are crooked, but boy, I am skilled. I got deep rows. I got a lot of them, but they're all crooked. We move toward them in fantasy, or we move away in fear. And sometimes we even God card that fear. And we say things like, I just wasn't comfortable. You're never going to be comfortable digging it. Juan's going to Ranger School tomorrow. It's God's will for his life. He can't fantasize it. He's got to take the next step. He can't run away from it because they put you away when you do that. You can't run away from it in fear, right? And in your life, sometimes we become runners. And really, you say, you ought to be able to go up to move away from something, okay? You ought to be able to say, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to move away from this issue. But I'll be able to also say this about me. When I move away, when he moves away, or when she pulls back from a situation, she's digging it while she's over there. And if you move to another state, you move across town, or you move across the hall, you go to the other room, it ought to be said about you. They moved away, but they're over there digging it. Because every time he moves away, he comes back. And he comes back with straighter rows, better fruit, and a better life. You don't have to let people in your life make it where you have to stay. Nobody should control you and make you stay. But also nobody should control you to make you go either. Right? It's got to be that God shows me what to do. God shows me where to dig it. You dig your stuff, I'll dig my stuff. I'll be back when we're both better. Does that make sense? We want to pull away sometimes. And the third thing is we move against. This is my favorite one. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite because it's good. It's like it's my favorite sin. What's your favorite sin? Anybody got a favorite sin? Can I get a witness? Because I love this sentence when my friend Pat, the counselor, was here, and he did this great, great seminar for people with emotional healing. And he quoted one of his mentors, and he said this: the beginning of all unhealthy behavior is in the avoidance of pain. The beginning of all unhealthy behavior is in the avoidance of pain. So we move away in fantasy or move toward it in fantasy, move away in fear, or move against it in anger. And I'll usually do this. I don't move away that much, but I'll move towards something, idealizing it, and then I'll react because it didn't turn out like I thought in anger. And there's some people that get angry and they scream and throw things. And there's other people that are very dangerous. When they get angry, you can't even tell it. And they move against it. They're passive aggressive and move behind and do things and say things just to get their way. Anybody ever been there like me? I have. I'm just preaching my confession this morning. But God had a calling on Elisha's life. And he had been digging it for years. God had a calling on his life. He had a career for him in prophetic ministry. God had a calling on him to stand and shake the nation. But God had to shake the prophet before the prophet could shake the nation. And God's got to shake the mama before the mama can shake the family. God's got to shake the daddy before the daddy can shake the leadership of his home. God's got to shake the family, got to shake the church before he can shake the world. God's got a calling on you. He's got power living inside of you. Elisha never saw it coming because he had his nose to the grindstone digging it out. He had potential that was unpredictable. I like stable people, but sometimes those unstable people, man, they're just wild. They attack things like crazy. You have no idea what's inside you, do you? You have no idea what's inside you. Don't sell yourself short during this season of your life. Again, if you're over 50, over 60, over 70 years old, you have not yet reached your potential. Moses didn't even get started until he was 80. Abraham didn't have his first child till he was almost 100 years old. Don't say it's been too long. Don't say it's been too many years. You say, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started. Hear me roar. Watch me fight, because I'm a digger. And as soon as hold on, I'm going to get these stumps dug out. I'm going to get these rocks cleared. And in a few minutes, I'm going to catch up to all you guys, and you're going to be eating my dust. If you're on up there in years, you look at your life and you say, I'm just getting started. There's a whole lot more in me. There's a whole lot more in me. Turn to your neighbor and this time take that fist and put that little knuckle out and give him a little shoulder. Give him a little shoulder like that, and say, there's more in you. There's more in you. Can you dig it? And next thing is this, can you work it? Dig it out, work it out. We can work it out. We can work it out. Philippians 2, 12 and 13 says it like this. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Hey, if you don't have a little trembling going on, it's probably not God's will for you. If it's not stretching you and pulling you, you're not digging and you sure ain't working. Verse 13 says, for it is God who is at work in you. I'm not talking about getting to be a better person and a better salvation. I'm saying, God, work it out because you worked it in. You put that deepest hope inside me, God, and I'm digging. I'm going to work it out. For it is God who's at work within me both to do his will and his pleasure. Because if it's my deepest hope, when I line up and say, God, it's my deepest hope, but it's your deepest pleasure. It's my deepest hope, it's your greatest pleasure. When I find my deepest hope in his greatest pleasure, we can work it out, Jesus. We can work with this. Give me something to work with. Elisha was in the field. He was working it out. You have no idea what God sees in you during this time in your life. You don't see it in yourself, but you have an unlimited God who lives inside you. You are made in his image. You are made for his glory. He has stamped his image on your life. You don't get to say what you look like, because when God looks at you, he sees his image and his glory and his power. You have no idea what you might become. Hey, I'm older. You have no idea what you're about to be able to do. Jesus did all of his ministry in 3 years. Anybody think he might have 3 years left? You'll never work it out, though, if you don't want it. You'll never work it if you don't want it. It's time to wake up the want to. You get your deepest hope. It's my deepest hope, God, but it's your greatest pleasure. And I say, God, it's okay for me to want it. It's okay for me to want it, God. I know you want it for me, and it's okay for me to want it, God. So if I want it, I'm going to pull the bow. I'm going to strike the ground. I'm going to shoot my arrow of victory out of the east window of my life, and nothing can stop me unless it's God. I don't have unlimited potential. I can't jump off the building and fly. But I have an unlimited God who has an unlimited love for me. And I don't have to stop. If it's God's field, if it's God's plan. Psalm 37:4 says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will implant desires inside you, is what this means. He will give you new desires in your heart. And so a lot of us were taught this in our lives growing up in church, like, you'd better deny yourself. And that's true. You deny the sin so you can get to the salvation. You deny the devil so you can get to the deliverance. When you say deny yourself, it's not talking about get down to where you don't want anything. God's not looking for cold and lifeless souls. He's looking for impassioned believers who are in touch with their deepest hope, who are digging it out and working it out, and so they can eventually live it out. We need a new theology of desire in the church. We need a theology of desire, because if I don't get in touch with my deepest desires in God, I will always fall into my deepest desire for the devil. You will never have a non-desiring outside and a non-desiring inside. If you're static on the outside, you will be unstable on the inside. And I'll either give it all and find my passion and my commitment and my pleasure in my hope in God, or I'll pour my hope into something else that's destructive and sinful. Because you don't have a neutral. Not for long. Some of you don't have a neutral for 5 minutes. Some of you might have a neutral for a year. Some of you might have like 3 seconds worth of neutral. We need a theology of desire. St. Francis is more than a hospital. You got to study his life. He said it this way: love God and do what you want. Love God and do what you want. Because if you say, God, this is what I want. But God, if I'm walking in love with you, it'll be what you want. John Piper, the modern day preacher and theologian, says it like this: God is most glorified in you when you're most satisfied in him. It's in you. God is most glorified in you when you are most satisfied in him. You deny the sinful self so the impassioned, hopeful believer can break down the door and live the life that you want more than the sin. Jonathan Moore, you guys know my singer friend Jonathan Moore. He's been here a lot of times. And back when we're all, looking for love in all the right places, because, man, it's possible to look for love in all the right places. And Jonathan went out to a competition and sang, and he met his now wife, Lisa. And, man, he came back and said, I met this girl, and she's amazing. And he was working on his Christian singing career. He had quit the bar bands, and he was still working at the Food Max. Anybody remember Food Max grocery store? Yeah, going to Food Max. And he was still working at Food Max, and he had his blue pickup truck that he drove around, and he sang in different churches with his bag of tracks, those cassettes and those kind of things. And he would sing and everything, and he said, I met this girl, but I work at the Food Max. And I'm singing, and I don't really know what my future's going to be. And she sang too and everything, but he was, he just didn't know. He said, God, what should I do? And sometimes God, what should I do is a cover-up and a fake and false thing, for I'm really just afraid to act. And so he told us, he said, but I was listening to the radio, and Pastor Tony Evans from the Urban Alternative, from Bible Church in Dallas came on. And he said, some of you boys that are listening to me today, you're leaving a lot of women out there stranded. You are their husbands. And what you call waiting on God, God calls irresponsibility. He says, so I got this for you, boys. He said, do you like her? Number 2, does she look good to you? And number 3, does she love Jesus? And if you like her, and she looks good to you, and she loves Jesus, stop praying about it. God's already answered your prayer. God's already answered your prayer. It's been a year. Get in there and make that woman a proposal before your buddy gets her. Get in there and make that woman a proposal. What you call waiting, God calls irresponsibility. We need a theology of desire. Say it with me. I'm working it out. You might not see it now. You might not see it now. But it's not over. Oh, can I hear that one again? It's not over. It's not over. I'm working it. And my payday is coming. Because if you work the field, God's going to make sure you get a payday. And you might not get what you thought, but you're going to get what you need. Because what you thought gets in the way of what you need. God's trying to give you what you need. You're like, that's not what I thought. Well, it's not your life anyway. My payday's coming. I dig it out. I work it out. And what's the third thing? Can you call it, Rivertown Church? Can you call it out? This is usually the thing that gets us mixed up. Because we're doing all the digging. We're doing all the working. But everything we hear out of our mouth is we're speaking to our fear and not to our hope. Ephesians 3:20 says this. Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly more above all that we ask or think. Exceedingly abundantly above more than all we can ask or think. Sometimes it goes like this. I'm not seeing it, because I'm calling it too low. Yeah, I'm calling it too low. God's throwing strikes. He's throwing it right down the middle. And I'm going like, I don't know. It's kind of on the outside. And you're calling it too low. And some of us need to raise up our expectations and our hope and our deepest hope. The reason you're not seeing anything, because you really are trying to get a layer of your hope, but not your deepest hope. And God did not give you those covered up layers. He gave you the core. You covered it in something else. You covered it in some fake and false desires based on fear and what you thought you were able to do. That's not going to happen. The core of who you are, that's what can happen. You will always be successful at what God made you to do. And you can only be successful at who you are because everybody else is taken. But when we cover it up with layers of expectations from parents, expectations from people, expectations here, wondering there, when we cover it all up with that, we can never, never, never have it. Our potential will be a strung up bow in tension and never released for the rest of our life. Ecclesiastes 9:11 says, the race doesn't go to the swift. Hey, God, I'm not fast enough. Somebody beat me to it. The battle not to the strong. God, I'm not strong enough. Somebody else can beat me. Nor food to the wise. God, I'm not smart enough. Nor wealth to the smart. That's why I'm broke. I'm not smart enough, God. He's smarter than me. Nor recognition to the skilled. God, I'm not good enough. Instead, time and circumstances meet them all. Time and circumstances meet them all. And we have a God of timing. We have a God of circumstances. God can bring the right timing to you. He can bring the right circumstances to you. But he can't make you want it. And he can't make you call it. You got to call it. What do I mean when I say call it? What do I mean when I say call it? Sometimes, you guys, when it's time for Sunday, I got to say this. I'm an amazing preacher. Sometimes I got to say it like that, right? You know? Sometimes I got to say, I am so good looking. I got to say, like, I'm getting skinnier. I'm getting skinnier, Lord. And sometimes in your life, you got to be able to say this. If you're a single man or a single woman, you got to say it like this. She wants me. And sometimes if you're married, you got to say, she wants me. Say it to yourself first. Because every woman wants a man who believes he's wantable. Every man wants a woman who believes she is wantable. I want to introduce you over here on the organ here today to Brother David. A few weeks ago, I told you guys that I was down in Florida. And I went into a church and I said, you don't have a drummer today. I said, hey, I'm an extremely good drummer. I had to call it. And they said, okay, if you think you're an extremely good drummer, who are we to say you're not? Get up on the drums. It's 5 minutes before the service. It's time to play. And they shouted and they praised God and said, God brought us a drummer today. I said, you ought to hear me preach. And today, Brother Don Tipton brought in his friend, Brother David over here. And I said, man, oh man. I was getting ready for this sermon and I was thinking to myself, this sermon needs an organ. This sermon needs a little organ in the back. Show us what you got. Can you dig it? Can you work it? I think he can work it. I think we can call it today. We can work it today. We can call it today. This man knew what was in him, didn't he? Do you know what's in you? I said, I think I need an organ today. He said, do you got an organ? And they said, Don said, well, I don't know if he wants to. I said, the man asked me if I had an organ. And when you're good at something, when you know who you are, when you've dug it, when you've worked it, you get up today and say, I can't call it for Jesus. I can't call it today. I got a lot more inside me. I might be 50, 60, 70 years old, but they haven't even seen me. I'm just getting started. There's a whole bunch. There's a lot of more. There's a lot of more. There's a lot of more inside of me today. God isn't working in me. He's working out what God has worked inside of my life. There is so much more. There is so much more. There is so much more. I got something else to tell you. You know about Lazarus, right? You know, Lazarus was in the grave. And what if Jesus would have went up and said, you know, guys, I just call it like I see it. Are you one of those people that say, I call it like I see it? I just call it like I see it. If Jesus was one of those ones that said, I call it like I see it, Mary and Martha would have never gotten their brother back. But you know what Jesus did? He didn't call it like he saw it. He called it like his Father saw it. Are you walking around in life today saying, I just call it like I see it? I call it like I see it. God sees the end from the beginning, the beginning from the end. Juan's already finished with Ranger School. He's already got his Ranger tab in heaven. That Ranger tab is already there. It's already there. It's already there. In you and your life, you got a friend who doesn't go to church. You got a loved one outside of the will of God. They're already sitting in the seat beside you this morning. They're already there. Can you call it? Can you call it? What did Tony Evans say on the radio to Jonathan? Do you like her? Does she look good to you? Does she love Jesus? Then you call it. Give her your name. And make that woman an offer. What do you need to call this morning? What do you need to make an offer today? What do you need to call? You got a deepest hope, but you know what else you got? You got a deepest fear. Uh-oh. You got a deepest hope and you have a deepest fear. But guess what else you have? You got a choice to make. You can keep calling your deepest fear into life, or you can start calling your deepest hope into life. When Jesus walked up on that grave, you know what he did? He called it. Lazarus! 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 Come on, guys. Lazarus! 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 Come forth! He called it, didn't he? Anybody want to stand up today and give Jesus some love? You want to stand up today and give Jesus some love? Did Jesus strike the ground once? Did Jesus strike the ground twice? He kept calling it. He kept calling it. He kept calling it till it came to pass. He kept calling it till it came to pass. I got a little revelation about this passage in the arrows. I was thinking, why 5 or 6 times? Why did he say, you should have done it 5 or 6 times? It's not in the Bible. It's just something this preacher thinks. I think he only had 6 arrows. And when he said you should have done it 5 or 6 times, he said you should have done it. You should have shot all your arrows or just leave one. Maybe leave one for tomorrow. Leave one in reserve. But don't leave 3 or 4 or 5 in reserve. When you call it is when you shoot all your arrows. And your mouth is the bow. 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 And so you start saying, I am healthy. I am safe. I'm secure. I'm loved. I'm growing. I'm going to get the job. If I don't get this one, I'm going to get another one. If I don't get that one, I'm going to get a better one. I will be loved. I will be liked. I will be desired. I will be faithful. I will follow through. I'm a completer. I'm a conqueror. God knows my name. It's already happened. He's taking care of me every day of my life. Can I get some love for Jesus in the house today? Woo! Keep striking the ground. Keep striking the ground. Keep striking the ground. You can dig it. You can work it. But it's not coming to pass until you call it. Anybody remember the old baseball movie with Robert Redford, The Natural? Remember the movie The Natural? At the very end, he came out at the end and he was old and he was sick. But he stood out on home plate, and that old sick baseball player who wasted his life and never made it to the plate, he held up his bat and he pointed up at the upper stands. They said, what's he doing? What's he doing? What's he doing? What's he doing? He's calling it. What do you need to call today? Lazarus, come forth. It might not happen the first day you call it. It might not happen the second day you call it. But even if you never see it happening, let it be the last words on your breath. Let you go down. You say this. Let them say about me, he never stopped believing. She never stopped hoping. She never stopped desiring. You can't guarantee it, but you can guarantee that in your life, you can call it. Can we worship Jesus? What a powerful name it is.